Turn off my camera. Hey everybody, John the Other here, obviously. And it's the 30th of December, which means I'm going to do a New Year's resolution video. Now, these are not precisely my resolutions that I'm following myself, imposing on myself. They might be, but I typically don't broadcast what my resolutions are because I feel like if you tell people about them, then you're not going to actualize them. That in order to follow them, you have to keep it inside. But these I'm going to offer as a YouTube video for guys particularly on a MGTOW path as resolutions they can adopt or adapt or rework themselves because I think they're valuable. So here we go. These are suggested or proposed New Year's resolutions for MGTOW. Number 1, dump shame. I'm sure I'm not the only person to suggest this or the first. If you are a MGTOW guy, you may even have begun an effort in this direction quite a long time ago. But of course it's not easy, because shame is something tied deeply into all of our social upbringing and biological programming. We are social animals after all. So rather, if you struggle with dumping shame from your life, as many men do, start by understanding it. It's obviously a very powerful tool of social control and manipulation, and people of a dishonest intention will be gleeful about continuing to use it against you. But for you to be vulnerable to the weapon of shame, you must do two things. You must, number 1, value the judgment of your attackers on you, and number 2, recognize in your own behavior something that is morally incorrect. Those two bricks are the two foundations of any attack based in shame against you, and those are the bricks to remove and let that structure crumble. Resolution proposal number 2 for New Year's 2017. Say no to every woman in your life. Now, in our society, men are not actually allowed to do this. Men are not socially allowed to say no to women. So you should obviously do this right away. You don't need to be rude or aggressive or mean-spirited about it. In fact, it's better if you are none of those things. But make it your goal to say no to every single woman in your life this week, including your mother, and continue doing it. And don't apologize for it either. Resolution proposal number 3. Look up. Now, what do I mean by this? While you're walking sort of in public, on the sidewalk, in whatever city you happen to live in, look upwards over the heads of other people walking on the street or on the sidewalk. Don't look down at your feet. Don't look at the ground. Look up, and make it your habit each time you mount the sidewalk to remember to look up. It will change your posture, and it will change your inner sense of self. You might even find that you are smiling for no good reason or laughing. Resolution number 4, dump the friend zone. Dump it. The friend zone is actually misnamed. It's actually a zone of exploiting male sexual and social need. If you get friend zoned, you need to depart from that relationship. The fact that it is normal and socially, I guess, acceptable does not make it healthy or non-abusive. Now, when I say abusive, I want to say something else as a caveat, and I'll probably say this again throughout this video. Don't fall into the mental trap of victim identity here. There is a no-win situation if you become a self-described victim. Just depart that relationship because the friend zone is toxic. Dump it. Resolution number 5, nobody is responsible for your feelings except yourself. The obvious converse of this is that other people's feelings are their responsibility as well. Now, people in your life are going to refuse to accept this, and they're going to insist, for whatever reason, that you are responsible for their feelings, their happiness or lack thereof, their fears, and so on. When this happens, realize they are signaling to you that you need to assert your boundaries. Obviously, don't deliberately terrorize other people here, even if you find that you have a particular skill in that direction, basic decency stuff as we go forward. Potential resolution number 6. Recognize aggression, particularly against yourself, and particularly when it comes from a non-traditional direction. For example, the claim of a feeling of fear or unsafety in response to you asserting your boundaries. Such a claim of fear would be an act of covert aggression against you. And yes, that's something MGTOW guys need to watch out for. Resolution potentially number 7, recognize violence against yourself. Women hit men, right? This is seen as normal. I don't mean all women hit all men. I just mean that people hit each other in this life, and a lot of that is women hitting men. And this is seen as normal, or sometimes it's seen as funny, or it's acceptable, and very often it's just invisible. It is often the case that men who have attended a legally required counseling course, possibly due to an episode of domestic violence, and who may even have actually hit their spouse, precipitating the need for that domestic violence counseling, have actually been themselves repeatedly under physical attack for a period of years, but have never recognized physical attacks on themselves as violence, particularly coming from a spouse or a girlfriend. If you're a lot bigger than her and you don't need to go to the hospital after she hits you, that doesn't make her hitting you not a violent act. I'm a short guy. I'm 5'6". So if you're bigger than me, does that make it okay for me to drive over to your house and slap you across the head? No, of course not. It's ridiculous. So why then is it acceptable for a smaller woman to hit you? Well, it isn't. And you need to recognize it because our society is in no hurry to do so. Being hit by somebody, regardless of what size they are, is violence. And the damage it does is much deeper than just that little small temporary bruise that you might get. And it won't stop if you don't recognize it and stop it. Resolution potential number 8. Stop using the word cisgender. What do I mean here? Well, the term cisgender was created with a very specific intention of insulting, marginalizing, and degrading people whose inner sense of sexual self aligns with their outward sexual appearance and their body's biology. The technical meaning of cisgender is a person whose identity and whose body align naturally, and who falls within the statistical norm in our culture, in biological norms. However, the term means this thing with the added value of slander and social shaming attached to it. Ordinarily, nobody who opens a conversation with a demeaning insult gets to have the free pass that they are not being a rude and abusive shithead, when in fact they are doing exactly that. I, personally, am not ashamed of myself for not having a mental disorder. And mentally ill people who are proud of the fact, they are proud of their mental problems, do not get to demean or degrade me or anyone else without getting ejected from the conversation. So stop using the word cisgender and stop allowing it to be used on you, because it's abusive. Potential New Year's resolution number 9. Did I say 9? We're at 9 now. This is sort of a repeat of the last one in a more general term. Recognize and refuse abuse against yourself. Now, there are a large number of socially normal behaviors towards men in our culture that if they were performed against other people would be immediately recognized as abusive. However, being the part of the system that we are within, it's sometimes easy to miss these things, especially when they happen to us. So, to recognize and then reject abuse once you recognize it, you can use rules, which is what I do. I maintain a file on my desktop. It's got about 12 rules in it, with a set of basic rules for behavior. Now, you don't need to have it printed out in your pocket or anything like that. Just a text file or a Word doc on your desktop is close enough to hand that you can check against that list periodically as you need to. And you can add or modify a rule from time to time. And the goal isn't to have a list of hundreds of rules. It's to have a short, succinct reference of a few short rules that are things that you want to keep in mind. Now, I'm not going to read you my whole list, because if you use this particular suggestion, making your own list is a very valuable exercise. So I'm just going to read you 2 items from the list that I maintain. Texting or selfieing at the dinner table, whether it's at home or in a restaurant. If somebody texts, which is to say they are having a text conversation with somebody who is not present, while they are at the dinner table with you, ask them to put their phone away. And if they don't, that's a strike. You get a certain number and you're out. How many strikes are there? Well, it depends on the context. It depends on your tolerance. For the sake of this video, because we have no other context, I'll say 4. Another rule that I have, the second one I'm going to tell you, is what I call the 2-message rule. Any person I send 2 messages to, whether they're voicemails or text messages or emails, if they don't respond, I delete them from my phone. Now, this rule saves me from falling prey to my own insecurity. And I follow this particularly closely when I am dealing with new people I have just met or people whose contact information I have just got, and so there's occasion to contact them. 2 messages, no response, deleted, and I never go back. This is a rule that I only break if the person owes me money. The final item in my list here is not precisely a resolution, it's just an observation, but I guess you can enact it as a resolution if you want. And that's gender binary. You keep hearing these people talking about gender binary. I'm non-binary. I'm not part of the gender binary. I'm a gender non-binary. Well, fuck those people because they're assholes. Everybody is gender non-binary. Every single person is gender non-binary. You know what's binary? Software. Computers are binary. On, off. Human beings are not software. I don't care what your sexual idea of yourself is, what your sexual orientation is. I don't care what your sexual identity is. I don't care if it's different today than it was yesterday. I don't care if it's going to be different tomorrow. I don't care if it's always the same or if you're a traditional manly man. Everybody is gender non-binary because human beings are not binary. So all these flakes and assholes going, I'm gender non-binary. No, you're just a fruitcake trying to create an imaginary new category for yourself so that you can be more special than everybody else. So fuck off. There's no such thing. So that's my whole video. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you have a great new year. For you progressive regressives, you anti-liberals, 2017 is going to hurt worse than 2016 did. Count on it. We're working to make it happen. Thanks for watching and have a lovely day.